Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Shafer and this is Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm a physician, mom, a life coach, musician, publisher, author, and I am passionate about using storytelling to help reclaim your story, reframe it, and move towards building your most beautiful future. Today, I want to talk about what a lot of other people are discussing, Taylor Swift's new album, The Tortured Poets Department. It was timely for me. I was suffering from a sinus infection, well, still am, and couldn't well podcast, sing, or coach. So it was the perfect time to reflect on new music and stories shared by one of our generation's greatest and most generous storytellers. I pre-ordered the album in its deluxe form for my daughter, a dedicated Swiftie. As she opened the artifacts envelope hidden inside the plastic frame holding the newest gems of honesty and musical form, my daughter breathed in sharply and showed me with the utmost reverence the small gifts hidden in the envelope. A bookmark, cards, a magnet, and a sticker with a bolting rabbit. It made you wonder, what is it running from? Was it frightened off by an innocent child who stumbled into its hiding spot? Or is it running for its life from a hunter, hoping to survive its encounter with a predator, using every ounce of its energy it can muster to escape? You can never know from looking at the picture alone, just like you can never know from listening to a song alone all of the complexities that went into the experience and emotions that inspired its inception. Listening to the TTPD, the Tortured Poets Department, from a strictly analytical standpoint is disorienting at times. If you feel you need to know the subject of the song, the inspiring person behind the lyrics, the timeline and the content of this album make knowing this with absolute certainty very unlikely, unlike some of Taylor's previous work. We can guess, but honestly, that takes away from the story. Because, as Taylor noted during her Eras tour, her stories and her songs are no longer hers alone. They are ours. They have taken on the weight, the texture, the color, the reflection of all those who have truly opened up to them, embraced them, and poured their own experience into them, singing them loud, at times with tears in their eyes, all the while dancing and feeling so connected. And that is the pure beauty of Taylor's songwriting. I'm going to discuss my reflections on a few of the songs here, but that's only scratching the surface, as the album has 31 songs in total. And of note, these are simply my reflections. Taylor's music belongs to everyone, and everyone gets to make their own reflections, to have their own experience listening to the songs. Taylor shares everything from the most innocent, sweet moments of life to the most vulnerable, potential for shame-bearing thoughts and experiences. By doing so, she is telling the audience that sometime, somewhere, these feelings happened, these choices were made, and this diffuses the shame that may have otherwise been clouding the memories of someone's life, of their experiences. When the characters in her stories, or perhaps she herself, make these choices, she allows the characters to express themselves freely, to say, "This choice is mine," crazy as it may seem, as she asserts in her own words, "But Daddy, I love him," clearly stating, without a hint of reservation, that she would rather lose everything for what matters to her than listen to the wishes and plans and opinions of others 1 second more. To describe the experience of being obsessed with someone you've never touched, and perhaps the world would say you should not, and guilty as sin, but to confess that she's choosing religiously to worship this person, despite the guilt others may try to make her feel for doing so. To admit that those who hurt us the most, as she describes in The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, may come at us with the worst of intentions and leave us wrecked. They may have defiled us, may have stolen things that can't be replaced, and they may deserve prison for their actions. But they may never get what they deserve. because they will abuse the system and get away once again. But, as she mentions, they are what they did. They can't escape that. And she doesn't feel she has to forgive them, but she will choose to forget them. In the beautifully chaotic and dizzying track, I Can Do It with a Broken Heart, Taylor expresses the feminine experience, the experience of loving freely and vulnerably, only for it to lead to a heartbreak of the highest degree, and then to have to walk around and live your best life, good vibes only, shine and sparkle. The dissonance of the strength and beauty that women show and how they show up every day with such grace, despite the challenges they are facing in life, mixed with a feeling of anger that we feel we have to earn this badge of honor and push down our feelings until we inevitably break and self-destruct. Taylor says, "Try and come for my job," at the end of the song. And I think this glittery bop of a track demonstrates the difference between how something may sound and look and how it really feels to experience it. And that is something we can all relate to, even if we don't have stadiums of fans chanting more. "I'm going to get you back" is painful for me as a listener to hear. And that makes it even more powerful. It is common to have mixed feelings when leaving a toxic relationship. This person didn't live up to their hype. You don't really want them back, but you also can't believe what happened. And you are stuck in the push and pull of taking back your control, having not yet recognized that having control over your life means controlling your energy and learning how to walk away from the people and situations that steal your peace, that remove your focus from where it ought to be. It takes time to learn this lesson, and it is easy to get caught up in the energy-sucking experience of tit for tat with the person who is trying to get you to play their game. "I Hate It Here" seems to beckon to the feeling of childhood, of when you don't fit in, yet you can't leave, so you create a sanctuary in your mind. When we are young, we see it as an escape, but with age and wisdom, we realize we are building our temple, our home, because our home doesn't lie outside of us, but within. The order of the songs then intrigues me, as after "I Hate It Here," Taylor follows this up with the most healing and honest song of the album, in my opinion, "Thank You, Amy." In "Thank You, Amy," Taylor honestly shares just how traumatizing an individual and their actions can be in your life, even a life as shiny, expansive, and successful as Taylor's. Especially when we are young, someone we initially trusted that taught us that painful lesson to be more careful with our hearts and our stories can leave an indelible mark. Without doing the work to disentangle our thoughts and beliefs from the negative, limiting beliefs, the shame, and the pain that we experienced in the past, we can carry those feelings with us and make every step we take more difficult. We did not choose the pain, but we can choose to really embrace it, to acknowledge it, and to work on learning how to cope with the pain and release what is not ours to carry. To truly recognize that what this person did is about them, not us. And our behavior is about us, not them. So we need to be cognizant of how we choose to respond as well. And there lies the lessons, the healing. Without Amy, Taylor says she wouldn't be where she is now, and she would not have reached this level of healing. Amy was the test, and Taylor is grateful to say that she passed it. And now she can look back and thank Amy for making her so strong. There's something healing and beautiful about the big "F you, Amy" in the song being then followed by the relief-filled "Thank you, Amy." It's almost like the author mastered the art of forgiveness and recognized the gifts of showing grace. She pushed the boulder up the hill, and now she can leave it behind and run freely, take off and soar, and see how beautiful things look from up high once you get out of the weeds, release what you are holding on to so tightly, and you simply rise above. In the manuscript, the final tract of an epic, poetic creation, Taylor Swift shares the story of a woman looking back on a relationship that, from the perspective of her younger self, seemed full of promise and excitement, but upon reflection, was full of danger that she just couldn't yet perceive. The slick, future-faking antagonist, dressed in sheep's clothing, lures her into his world, where she wanted to fit in and to be seen as a grown-up. But the shoes didn't quite fit yet. The relationship ended, and then she goes on to date men her own age, at which time she begins to feel the cognitive dissonance looking back at the time she'd spent with this older man, thinking more deeply about his assertions that everything was above board because she was so mature for her age. Only now, she isn't so sure. This experience goes on to color her relationships, to haunt her thoughts, and one day, she's encouraged to write them down by a professor. She realizes that looking back and finally honestly acknowledging her experience and what it meant for her in her life, and to recognize what she has carried with her ever since, is the only way to finally move forward and leave that story behind her. She details watching her story in color from the outside being played out as a script in the theater with actors, music, an audience crying along with the heroine in her moments of distress, and how this third-person experience of what she had personally endured brought a clarity of what the lesson truly was. The pain suddenly could be released, and that pain could live within the manuscript and outside of her mind. Now, all she had to carry with her were the important lessons from her experience. She didn't have to visit the memories of him or the pain any longer. And finally, she moves on with her life to create the story that she wants and realizes that that old story is no longer hers. And that is the gift of storytelling. We take our emotions, our experiences, we set them free, we acknowledge them. No longer ghosts and gremlins in our mind surviving in the darkness. When we bring them into the light, give them a name, and give them an audience, they lose their teeth. They don't frighten us the way they did before, when they were hidden only in our memories, and we felt alone and trapped with them, not realizing that our demons weren't even ours, and that so many others are suffering the same as us, yet feeling alone in that pain. Until we hear a song that bravely says the pain, the ridiculous thoughts, the self-deprecation, the poor decision-making, the breakdown, the painful back and forth, and finally the feeling of when the storm has passed and we realize the gifts it gave us, only then do we feel an acknowledgement of our own emotions. Because many of us haven't learned how to initiate that process on our own. And so we maintain the status quo of being victims of our experiences and our emotions rather than processing them, taking the lessons, and moving on with gratitude and with letting go. The storms did give us gifts. The rain nourished our souls in ways that sunshine alone can't. And now we are stronger, and we know how to move forward when the storms come again, because they will. Even if we are Taylor Swift, because we are all out here just learning how to live, how to love, how to grasp the difference between our story and the story we've been telling ourselves, and to release our grip on what isn't ours, to help us, to allow us to move forward into the story that truly belongs to us. So thank you, Taylor Swift, for this beautiful, vulnerable poetry. And thank you for listening to my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Please subscribe to the show and make sure to comment about your favorite songs and takeaways from them. Music, poetry, literature, art of all forms can be healing and even life-saving and altering. I hope you take inspiration and encouragement from this podcast and that you fully embrace your beautiful future and write your own story. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. And again, thank you so much for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Stay safe and take care.